Welcome back to WorkTech, everyone. I'm George LaRocque, and we've got some more industry funding news. This time, we've got an early stage deal. Veremark, a employment screening tech provider, has raised a $2.8 million seed round, and I'm joined by their CEO, Daniel Callaghan. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi, George. Welcome. Thanks very much for having me.
Great. Well, congrats on the round.
Thank you.
It's always validating to go through the process and raise funds. For those unfamiliar, tell the audience about yourself and about Veremark.
Sure. So, I mean, just briefly on myself, I'm definitely a HR tech evangelist. I've sort of been in the space for just over a dozen years now. Veremark is my second business. So actually straight out of business school, I founded one of Europe's earliest high-end freelance marketplaces. Sort of the comparables are Callaghan and Expert 360, but we set that up in 2009 and then ran that as founder and CEO before moving to Singapore, where I'm now based. Had a brief stint in corporate life, running the digital innovation and investments arm for the Adecco Group, focused on APAC. So what they called AGX for a while, which was great fun and a pretty valuable experience. But was there where I really got to learn about the full background screening and was the genesis, so if you will, of what is now coming to be in Veremark. Veremark is really on a mission to help the world trust faster, and is now building on sort of the trends that you're seeing around international hiring and remote hiring, and the forced virtual nature of hiring that is obviously COVID related, just with a very simple aim of trying to make it safer and easier for companies to hire anywhere in the world.
Yeah. So you mentioned trust, and I know that you're more than a background check company. Looked at your positioning, and it's all centered around trust and credential verification and integrity. Tell us about your model. We spoke a while ago. You walked me through it, and I know there are some unique things about it. So tell everyone about your model and how you approach this.
Sure. I mean, so first of all, we want to be a single point solution for companies of all and any size to be able to run the checks that they need to check anywhere in the world. But actually, and then it's complete table stakes in the industry that we will highlight any discrepancies and minimize the risk factors around someone coming on with a slightly dubious or nefarious past, or someone who's just misrepresented the facts, right? I mean, that's the baseline expectation of what our product and industry is all about. But really, actually, we find that when we looked at the market, that most of the market was peddling fear. Right? And it was about this sense that actually 1 in 4 is definitely going to have misrepresented on the CVs. Unfortunately, there's a large number of people with criminal convictions in the US, but it was all about this fear element. And actually, what Veremark really is about the hope and potential that these new joiners can bring to your organization. And it's how do we get that new joiner to be vetted and cleared accurately and safely, so that they can bring that potential into your team and obviously to all of your stakeholders. So going back to that 1 in 4 sort of statement, that also means that 3 out of 4 haven't lied. Right? It means that 3 out of 4 have been honest, right? Which is a far greater number. And it's about, Veremark's really positioned around how do we help you get those 3 out of 4 started faster and easier, so your business can progress, and that those candidates can have a much more seamless and enjoyable hiring experience.
Right. Let's drill in on that experience. How do you improve the current experience for employers and employees? What do you do there?
Well, I mean, for us, there's a couple of elements, right? There's the short-term, just immediate experience, and surprisingly, I mean, I still get the occasional message forwarded to me as an example where our larger competitors and the traditional incumbents have asked candidates to fax something back. Right? I mean, fax. Right? I mean, can you
Right.
imagine that? In a
Yeah.
do Gen Zs know what a fax machine is? I'm not so
I
sure.
don't think
Right?
so. I don't think so.
I know it's been a while since I've seen one, and actually outside of a couple of the new age players and those businesses that I'm sure are pretty obvious to know who they are. That most of the industry is very analog, right? It's pretty antiquated. It's very pen and paper. It's highly domestic, right? You're a national screening provider. You're not a global screening provider, and actually, it's a standard form that you got to fill out regardless of whatever checks are being doing, and you've got to repeat the information all those times. You know,
Okay.
all of those inconveniences and just old-fashioned practices that aren't really adopting the best in digital experience, the trends around consumerization of HR tech, and just making it easy and fluid for the candidate to provide and get their information completed. All of those problems disappear with Veremark, and from the get-go through levels of automation and robotic process automation, and the way we sort of absorb text and data from other sources, we cut that process down to a minimum, and then just make sure that it is a much more transparent process throughout for the candidate and for the hiring company, so that they know where they are in the process. It's not a black hole anymore, that they're getting clear, transparent updates in real time, so you don't have to wait for the whole check to be delivered or a whole bundle of checks to be delivered. And I mean, all of those modern, those old school inconveniences just sort of fade away and become, very much a thing of the past, or we introduce a new component. The longer term is actually, look, we want to strip back the inconvenience of having to do background checks at all. And we want to make it one and done. Right? I mean, I went to university in 2000, or I graduated in 2004. I mean, I couldn't tell you what month, but every time I go for a job, right, I'm going to have to keep trying to remember what month it was and find a certificate.
Yeah.
It's incredibly inefficient for the candidate and for the employer and for the university too, to have to keep digging through those records. And there are many checks like that, your past employment history and so forth, where actually your achievements and successes are cemented in time. And that's where we as Veremark are really trying to bring forward the notion of these digital credentials, and make sure that the verified employment credential can start to be much more widely accepted and much more widely used. And that's, again, if you think about just a convenience and time saving perspective, it means companies don't have to pay for repetitive checks. It means that employees don't have to wait for competitive checks, so they can start earning money sooner. And it means that everyone gets the process instantly, as opposed to having to wait the 12 days that they would have had to wait to confirm that historic employment or whatever it may be. And that's really what Veremark is, the longer term view of, again, how do we make the world trust faster? Is just by making trust instantaneous, right? And that's that's at the heart, again, of what our career passport is all about: being able to share and own your own data as an individual or as an employee with whoever you like, even beyond the employment context.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds really compelling, because you're right. These are moments that are institutionalized, they're cemented in time, and they follow you from, it's silly to have to go back and do that again with every application. Does when employment screening comes up, blockchain comes up, and this sort of credential or passport following you, does the blockchain come into play here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was the CEO and founder of Workday who said blockchain's been looking for a use case in HR. Credentials are it, and we've been big advocates of that since the get-go. For us, our credentials, or the results of the credentials, get hashed onto the Ethereum mainnet. Everything is done in line with the newly published global standards for what a digital credential should be and how it should be hashed and so forth. But from an end user perspective, right? I mean, blockchain is just the plumbing. You don't see it, you don't know it's there until you really need to know it's there. But it has two end user benefits, and those really come down to the reusability and the portability of it. And so again, you can now trust this data. You can see that it hasn't been tampered with, and you're no longer dependent as the candidate on Veremark to approve you sharing this data. Right? We give that back, or rather, the employers gift that data back to the candidate as part of the hiring experience. Right? So it's a wonderful welcome present for the candidate, as then as part of their onboarding. But here's those checks. You never have to do it again. And those candidates can, as I say, can then share that data, whether they're trying to get a flat or get a car loan or wherever it might be, in all these other use cases. With the recipient then knowing that that data has been truly verified by a third party and can be attested to by this third party. The second part is obviously around the governance, right? Because all of the, if you're a financial services company, the regulator comes knocking, they need to see all of the checks that you're done. You can very quickly, through Veremark solution, again, show them a timestamp of exactly all the full digital audit trail, all of the points of verification that the data has been going through, and they can immediately know that, again, this data has not been tampered with, and it is fully is of the highest integrity. And those are the two real overarching benefits of using blockchain as a tech stack.
Yeah, I like that you've put you call blockchain the plumbing, and as innovative as blockchain is, and the use case that exists here, really it's about the value to the employer and the value to the employee and the experience that you're talking about. I'm not sure that I even saw blockchain on your website, at least on the homepage when I looked at it.
Yeah, I think it's there somewhere, but it's not. I mean, I'd be disappointed if it isn't. But it's not on the homepage. But it is a key part, as I say. But it's like saying it's an AI business, right? I mean, what business isn't or shouldn't be these days, really? Again, people, we take the view that it's much more about the benefits we deliver as opposed to how we deliver them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've, as you said it at the top, you've been in the industry a while, so it doesn't surprise me that you get the value. It's the technology is the delivery, the platform, not necessarily the value it contributes. So good on you for that. There's a lot of messaging out there that does lead with the tech. So I'm sure the viewers and listeners here can appreciate that. All right. So I think we've got a good picture of Veremark and what you do, and a quick understanding of how you do it. Let's drill into to the deal. $2.8 million seed round, or additional seed round. What are your plans for the funding? What's next now that you've got this seed?
It's just much more of the same. So I mean, we had a great, we launched in January 2020. Really, obviously didn't know the pandemic was coming, so that obviously put a slight hiatus in Q2. But since then, actually, the market has, much like the international and virtual hiring and remote hiring market, has really boomed. And for us, that is certainly trends that we want to keep growing on. We already have offices and presence now in Singapore, London, Hong Kong, Australia. We've actually just coming into the US with a really exciting partnership with the Tech Serve Alliance team, which is one of the largest trade staffing bodies out there in the US, in Q4. Again, continual refinements and improvements to the product. But I mean, ultimately, it's just growth, and trying to get the message out that there is a much more easier and flexible way to add confidence and simplicity to your pre-employment screening process. Yeah.
Is there for the company itself? You mentioned that you've been expanding globally. You're coming into the US. Is there that's a lot? Is there anything else that's new for the business? Are you hiring, or any particular areas that you're focused on right now?
I'm just again continuing the refinements of the process. I mean, again, a lot of we have two ways of accessing Veremark. One is our own standard web-based platform, so anyone can go to, say, www.veremark.com, create an account, and start buying checks. It's super simple, and there's no long onboarding or 6-week onboarding process. So anyone who wanted to switch could get it done straight away. But we also take this very much view that Veremark wants to be a trust engine. It's about, ultimately, again, it's about the data we produce as opposed to the brand of Veremark being front and center. So we have built an API that ultimately lets other platforms, whether it's freelance marketplaces or employer of records, just plug in Veremark into their business and add it as a bolt-on service to anything they're client. So for us, that's a second area that we're focusing a lot on, is trying to build out this partnerships, again, with any other sort of recruitment agencies, freelance marketplaces, employer record, or HR platforms that just want to be able to monetize or add on background screening as a service, can then through our API just bolt on Veremark.
Oh, okay. Okay. So your there's an ecosystem that you're going to fuel with your API and with your model and partnerships. That's interesting. Is that it sounds like that's already available today? Is that right?
It is, yeah. I mean, we have some fantastic partnerships with big entities like globalization partners. From an employer record perspective, there's a couple of others that I'm not able to speak about just yet, but as well as plugging into other direct marketplaces. Right? And as I mentioned, it's a category of businesses I know very well from my time at what was called MBN Company and now Talmix. And again, being able to add from a freelancer perspective, who change jobs even more frequently and therefore need to prove their credentials even more regularly, and then again, everything that Veremark stands for and the efficiencies it brings sort of is multiplied within that vertical and category of worker.
Oh, that's really interesting when you think about the freelancer side of the market and building for that. This was great. I really appreciate your coming on and being so open about the business and your model. I want to congratulate you again on the funding round. And is that you mentioned the URL, but I'll give you a chance to say it again. Where can people go to find out more about Veremark?
Sure, thanks. It's www.veremark.com. So that's VEREMARK.com. Or anyone, feel free to email me at dan@veremark.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, George. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.